Tonight on South Texas Most Wanted, more than 15 years on the run, how one man has managed to avoid authorities for more than a decade. Two suspects did not manage to hide from the cameras in a local home, but they're still avoiding the law. You can change that tonight. And when does art meet just old plain graffiti? Visitors to a San Antonio Hill Country landmark are having their say on the subject.
Oh, look at that. He made the S out of a dollar sign. How clever.
South Texas Most Wanted starts right now. On any given day, there are more than 20,000 open warrants in Bexar County alone. You can make South Texas a safer place. Make the difference. Make the call. Good evening and welcome to tonight's South Texas Most Wanted. You know, by any definition, fugitives are on the run from the law. By any standard, our next fugitive has proven to be quite elusive. He has been on the run for 15 years now, and that's what makes him one of our South Texas Most Wanted. His name is Jesus, but authorities are hoping you can make this anything but a holy week for him. Jesus Gonzalez is wanted by U.S. Marshals for having an active warrant for allegedly violating conditions of his supervised release. Now, back in November of 1993, the Spurs played their first NBA game in the Alamo Dome. Black and white leaders in South Africa approved a new democratic constitution, and President Bill Clinton approved the Brady Bill, which established a 5-day waiting period for purchasing a handgun. So, also, way back in November of 1993, Jesus Gonzalez was sentenced to 6 years in federal prison after being convicted on charges of bank robbery. He was also ordered to serve 3 years of supervised release. Now, how many times do we see it with fugitives like this? They do the crime, they do the jail time. They just can't seem to finish off that supervised release. Authorities say Gonzalez jumped his prison sentence in June of 1999. That's when the Spurs won their first championship, in case you're trying to remember. But just a year into his probation, authorities say Jesus violated his probation by not appearing before his probation officer and absconded from supervision. Yes, absconded. Look it up. Now, Gonzalez has a good reason to stay on the run. He is likely looking at prison time that would include the 2 years he still had on probation and as much as 6 years for the escape. Gonzalez is known to travel between San Antonio and Laredo, where he has lots of friends and family. Authorities agree with you. 15 years is a long time for someone to be on the run, and it's just time for Jesus Gonzalez to be brought in. The 56-year-old may look a bit different than he does in this 1993 mugshot, but he stands 5'8" with brown eyes and black hair. If you have any information on Jesus Gonzalez, give us a call on our South Texas Most Wanted hotline, the number 210-462-1747. Again, 210-462-1747. As always, make the difference. Make the call.
Authorities can use your help tracking down the following suspects who are currently on the run. 28-year-old Leticia Flores is wanted on charges of theft of less than $1,500. Authorities say she also has a couple of prior arrests that could come back to haunt her on this charge. Now, theft in Texas of less than $1,500 will cost you a lot more than that money is worth. This is considered a Class A misdemeanor with a jail sentence of not more than a year and a fine of no more than $4,000. But you would not want to go over a penny on that $1,500 mark, because now you are looking at 2 years behind bars and a $10,000 fine. The last known address on Leticia Flores is on Burr Hill. That is off of Loop 1604 and Stall Road on the far northeast side. Also tonight, authorities can use your help in locating Richard Belton. The 41-year-old is wanted on fraud charges and possession of illegal identification. Now, this may not sound like much, but possession of a fake ID in Texas can range anywhere from underage drinking to felony tampering charges. The latter of those two would have to do with someone actually altering a government document, and that could end up as a third-degree felony. The last known whereabouts of Richard Belton are on the south side of East Young Street near Riverside Golf Course. If you have any information on any of these suspects, give us a call on our South Texas Most Wanted hotline. The number is 210-462-1747. Again, 210-462-1747. As always, you can make South Texas a safer place. Make the difference, make the call. For South Texas Most Wanted, I'm Vanessa Gallegos.
Our next fugitive is originally from California, but he left no time leaving his mark here in the Alamo City. Authorities do consider him armed and dangerous, considering his considerable use of alcohol, marijuana, cocaine, Xanax, and Vicodin, and that's why they want him off the streets as soon as possible. He's our next South Texas Most Wanted.
He hails from the Golden State, but he certainly has a tarnished reputation with local U.S. Marshals. They are hoping you can help turn this holy weekend into anything but for Jesus Romero. Romero is wanted by U.S. Marshals for having an active arrest warrant for allegedly violating the conditions of his supervised release, his probation. In July of 2012, Romero was sentenced to 3 years in federal prison after being convicted on charges of conspiracy and possession with intent to distribute cocaine. He was also ordered to serve 2 years of supervised release, but police say the 31-year-old violated those conditions in May of 2014 when he was arrested by San Antonio police on allegations of criminal mischief and assault causing bodily injury. Police say Romero was then picked up on similar charges in January of 2015. Now, just the assault with bodily injury charges carry up to a year in jail, but that can be increased if a judge gets a chance to consider the defendant's past. Now, Romero did manage to get out on bond in those last 2 cases, but U.S. Marshals hope you can help make that freedom short-lived. They say Romero does have a violent history and he is known to carry firearms. Authorities definitely consider him armed and dangerous. They add that considering his extensive substance abuse history, the quicker they can get him off the street, the better. Jesus Romero stands about 6 feet tall. He has tattoos on his back, his chest, and his face. If you have any information on where U.S. Marshals can find Jesus Romero, give us a call on our South Texas Most Wanted hotline, or you can always go to our Facebook page and drop us a message there as well.
It's still to come. They did everything you could possibly do wrong in a burglary except stop and pose for a picture. How they're still managing to stay on the run tonight. And one is a historical landmark, the other is a downtown wall. Lately, they both got the graffiti spray treatment, but one of them is getting sympathy while the other one is getting selfies. South Texas Most Wanted. We'll be right back. They say in life it can be all about timing. It can be good for some. It can be really bad for other people. Sometimes it's good for everyone around. Bexar County authorities are in search of 2 burglars right now who got very lucky with their timing as they left a sour note in some homeowners' mouths when they took thousands of dollars worth of musical equipment. But with that whole timing involved, this is a situation that could have been a lot worse. They're part of our South Texas Most Wanted.
You don't know what the intentions are of those people who are committing the crime.
A crime caught completely on tape with the homeowners walking in just minutes after it happened. The Bexar County Sheriff's Office wants your help in identifying 2 burglars caught on camera stealing musical equipment from a home on Pleasanton Road back on March 9th.
We were fortunate whenever we discovered that there were surveillance cameras set up throughout this house. On the video, we see step-by-step what happened.
Now, the crooks got away with an electric guitar, a keyboard, an effects processor, and several other items. It appears they knew kind of exactly what they were looking for, but it's what happened next that might be most frightening. Watch the timeline on the cameras. We're talking just minutes after these burglars leave, 2-3 minutes. Here come the homeowners. Those surveillance cameras gave us a very good look at our suspects. They might as well have posed for a prom shot. And authorities say this is the type of evidence that simply cannot be denied.
As you saw, despite some very obvious video, these 2 suspects are still on the run, and authorities would like nothing more than to ruin their holiday weekend. If you recognize either one of them, make the difference, make the call. All right, still to come, some people are irate over one spray can incident in the Hill Country at a landmark close by, while others are rejoicing in front of a spray can incident on a wall much closer to home. Which one is closer to a crime? Our JT Street has tonight's They Say You Did What? South Texas Most Wanted. We'll be right back.
Authorities say Simon Gonzalez also goes by the name of Simon Benavides. He's in trouble either way. Simon is wanted by U.S. Marshals for having an active arrest warrant for allegedly violating conditions of his pretrial release. Now, back in November of 2007, Gonzalez was arrested on charges involving possession with intent to distribute more than 50 kilograms of marijuana. Since, as we like to say, only law enforcement and drug dealers seem to enjoy the metric system, 50 kilograms is actually equal to a little over 110 pounds. Now, the DEA officially puts the value of that marijuana on the street at $1,000 a pound, although according to a recent investigation by the Michigan Daily newspaper, the price is likely more around $1,500 a pound on average nationwide. Regardless, Simon Gonzalez, or Benavides, did manage to get himself released on bond, but in May of 2008, Gonzalez allegedly violated his probation when he was found in possession of illegal paraphernalia and a gun. He has not been seen since. Now, Gonzalez was born in Houston, but authorities believe he spends most of his time traveling between San Antonio and Laredo. Now, due to the recent gun charges, U.S. Marshals do consider the 46-year-old Simon Gonzalez, or Benavides, to be armed and dangerous. If you have any information on Simon, give us a call on our South Texas Most Wanted hotline at 210-462-1747. Again, that number 210-462-1747. You can make South Texas a safer place. Make the difference. Make the call.
Your tips and information are paying off every week here on South Texas Most Wanted. But sometimes the fugitives we are looking for are just not good at what they do. And that is why these next two suspects are no longer on the run. Bobby Stewart was picked up by police on charges of fraud for having a false ID, possession of less than a gram of a controlled substance, and theft. It may not sound like a whole lot, but when you roll those charges together, Stewart could be looking at more than 24 months in prison. Authorities caught up with the 35-year-old on Burke Avenue just off of Zarzamora on the south side. 25-year-old Crystal Carroll was arrested for possession of a controlled substance of less than a gram. Now, as we have pointed out in the past, Texas classifies controlled substances by what it considers the danger level of the substance and its addiction level. Carroll is accused of being in control of the most dangerous level, and even at less than a gram, she could be looking at up to 2 years in prison. The punishment is at least 6 months behind bars and a fine of up to $10,000. Carroll was allegedly on the run and living in Copper's Cove, but she made the trip to Bexar County to check in with authorities and was arrested. In law enforcement, sometimes it is better to be lucky than good. You are making South Texas a safer place. Make the difference, make the call. For South Texas Most Wanted, I'm Vanessa Gallegos.
When once asked the difference between art and pornography, a Supreme Court justice of all people famously once said, "I don't know, but I know it when I see it." Now, the lines between art and graffiti, they may not be as blurry to some, as our JT Street explains in tonight's They Say You Did What?
San Antonio is famous for its murals, works of art that in another time and place might have been considered graffiti. In fact, that line can get kind of blurry, like it did last December when graffiti crews painted over this "I love tacos so much" artwork. Now, in their defense, this does kind of more resemble graffiti than anything that somebody might have put time or artistic effort into, but it was popular, so it stayed. So, if this is art, what's graffiti? The answer comes to us from Enchanted Rock, where recently two taggers thought that they would improve upon this scenic natural beauty by tagging the words cash and truck into billion-year-old rock formations. Oh, look at that! He made the S out of a $sign. How clever! Almost as clever, the people who did this thought it would be a good idea to do so at sometime between 3 and 5 o'clock in the afternoon. You know, broad daylight, lots of people walking around, which resulted in these wonderful candid photographs that are quite artistic in their own right. I love how the interplay of light and shadow really seems to accentuate the idiocy. Texas Parks and Wildlife love the photos too because they hope that it'll help them catch the taggers, who they believe to be from the San Marcos area. Meanwhile, nature lovers, always eager to help, took to social media and gave the graffiti artists a couple of helpful pointers on what to do the next time they were up on top of a cliff. Like jump off of it, head first, without a rope. For South Texas Most Wanted, I'm JT Street with this week's They Say You Did What?
The last time I was at Enchanted Rock, it was like 20 years ago. A couple of friends of mine decided to get married at the top. They made the idea that their entire wedding party could go ahead and climb up there. They were mistaken. Marriage didn't last, but the rock's still there. It's got to count for something, right? All right, still to come, he spends his days focusing on protecting the citizens of Bexar County and his nights focusing on making local cancer patients feel a lot better about refocusing on what's going to make them better again. South Texas Most Wanted. We'll be right back.
It started with a chance encounter with a 4-year-old girl who would not win her fight against cancer. That's what got a full-time deputy with the Bexar County Sheriff's Department thinking about how he could spend his off time helping other young cancer patients. James Ma is taking his love of photography and art to develop a project he calls Focal Point to help change the focus of children who are in the fight of their lives. And that's what makes him a South Texas difference maker.
So last year in February of 2015, we had a girl named Jaylene. She came down to the courthouse. She had cancer. She had brain cancer, and we actually deputized her with the honorary deputy sheriff position. So with that, I started getting involved with her. So we ended up planning out a fashion show for her because, you know, a 4-year-old girl. She was terminal, so she probably would not be able to see a lot of things in life, and we wanted to kind of make her experience something that, of course, would, you know, what little girl doesn't want to be a model or doesn't want to be a princess. I met a little boy named Rowan at the same time, and he inspired me to start something new. He would always come to the hospital. He actually has Shwachman-Diamond syndrome, which is a form of intestinal cancer, I believe. And he used to bring an art cart with him to the T&I building, which is where they house the cancer ward for the kids, I guess. And he'd bring an art cart around to all his friends that were in treatment. He would have art supplies and crayons and markers for all these kids to draw on. So with that idea, I wanted to do something where these kids could bring the stuff with them. Focal Point actually started with photography basis. I wanted to get a camera or some type of device to these kids who couldn't express themselves. They had, you know, of course they're going through treatment, they're going through different things all the time, and they can't express themselves in a creative way, or they have pain, they have stress, and of course, you know, they're unable to say it in words. These kids, they have art supplies, they have crayons, markers, paint, glue sticks, scissors, paper, creative kits that I find at Walmart or Target, something like that, just something to keep them busy and occupied and allow them to express themselves. People at the courthouse have been donating supplies. I had an organization called Capisa. They helped donate supplies for my project. I say my project, but it's actually our project. I'm hoping that, you know, one, it'll bring a smile to their face, of course, and two, helps them be able to express themselves and tell mom and dad or tell their friends, or this is how I see life, you know, because this is what I'm going through.
James Ma is also going to school full-time at UTSA studying cybersecurity. Apparently, the youth is not wasted on the young. Now, everything James collects for the children is through donations. If you would like to help out, call our South Texas Most Wanted hotline. The number is 210-462-1747. This South Texas Most Wanted Difference Maker is brought to you by Nacogdoches Gold and Silver Exchange. For South Texas Most Wanted, I'm Trudy Stone.
A great guy making a great effort. James Ma says he really wants to add still cameras to every single one of those art boxes so that these cancer patients can truly capture in a moment the experience that they are going through. All right, we'll look back on some of the fugitives that we have featured tonight. More South Texas Most Wanted to come.
Now a quick look at the suspects we brought you tonight on South Texas Most Wanted. Jesus Gonzalez is wanted by U.S. Marshals for having an active warrant for allegedly violating conditions of his supervised release. Back in November of 1993, Gonzalez was sentenced to 6 years in federal prison after being convicted on charges of bank robbery. He was also ordered to serve 3 years of supervised release. How many times do we see fugitives like this? They do the crime, they do the jail time, they just can't finish that supervised release. Authorities say Gonzalez completed his prison sentence back in June of 1999. That's when the Spurs won their first championship. But just a year into his probation, authorities say Jesus violated his probation by not appearing for his probation officer. Now, Gonzalez is known to travel between San Antonio and Laredo, where he has lots of friends and relatives. Authorities agree with you. 15 years is a long time for someone to be on the run, and it's time for Jesus Gonzalez to be brought in. The 56-year-old may look a bit different than he does in this 1993 mugshot, but he stands 5'8" with brown eyes and black hair. U.S. Marshals are hoping you can help turn this holy weekend into anything but for Jesus Romero. Romero is wanted by U.S. Marshals for having an active arrest warrant for allegedly violating the conditions of his supervised release, his probation. In July of 2012, Romero was sentenced to 3 years in federal prison after being convicted on charges of conspiracy and possession with intent to distribute cocaine. He was also ordered to serve 2 years of supervised release, but police say the 31-year-old violated those conditions in May of 2014 when he was arrested by San Antonio police on allegations of criminal mischief and assault causing bodily injury. Now, police say Romero was then picked up on similar charges in January of 2015. Now, Romero did manage to get out on bond in those last two cases, but U.S. Marshals hope you can help that freedom short-lived. They say Romero does have a violent history and he is known to carry firearms. Authorities definitely consider him armed and dangerous. They add that considering his extensive substance abuse history, the quicker they can get him off the street, the better off we all are. Well, 28-year-old Leticia Flores is wanted on charges of theft of less than $1,500. Authorities say she also has a couple of prior arrests that could come back to haunt her on this charge. Now, theft in Texas of less than $1,500 will cost you a lot more than that money is worth. This is considered a Class A misdemeanor with a jail sentence of not more than 1 year and a fine of no more than $4,000. Now, the last known address on Leticia Flores is on Burr Hill, that's off Loop 1604 and Stall Road on the far northeast side. And finally tonight, authorities can use your help in locating Richard Belton. The 41-year-old is wanted on fraud charges and possession of illegal identification. Now, this may not sound like much, but possession of a fake ID in Texas can range anywhere from underage drinking to felony tampering charges. The latter of those two would have to do with someone actually altering a government document. The last known whereabouts of Richard Belton are on the south side off East Young Street near Riverside Golf Course. If you have any information on any of our suspects, give us a call on our South Texas Most Wanted hotline, the number 210-462-1747. Again, 210-462-1747, or contact us on our South Texas Most Wanted Facebook page. As always, remember, you can make South Texas a safer place. Make the difference. Make the call.
From all of us here staying up late at South Texas Most Wanted, we want to thank you very much for joining us tonight. Make sure you check out our Facebook page. We've got our Twitter page coming up as well. And we will see you next time on South Texas Most Wanted. Have a good night.